If God answered every prayer instantly, many lives would collapse under the weight of the blessing. What if delay is not denial, but protection? What if heaven is not waiting for your faith, but for your structure? Most people think success is blocked by lack of money, lack of favor, lack of opportunity. But heaven sees a deeper problem. God does not release abundance into chaos. He does not pour increase into systems that cannot sustain it. What many call delay is actually divine intelligence withholding overflow until order is established. From the beginning, creation itself followed a pattern. Light did not appear randomly. Waters were divided before life emerged. Boundaries were set before multiplication began. God did not rush results. He established order, and this same principle governs every area of human destiny. Many are praying for promotion while living without discipline, asking for expansion while resisting structure, crying for breakthrough while refusing alignment. This is why some doors remain closed, not because God is unwilling, but because disorder disqualifies access. Stay with this message, because if you misunderstand this law, you will keep fighting spiritual battles that are not spiritual at all. You will fast for what requires structure. You will rebuke what requires responsibility. But once you understand the order law, you will stop chasing success and start attracting it naturally. God never funds confusion because confusion is expensive. Disorder drains energy before it produces results. When systems are unclear, resources are misused, focus is divided, and momentum is constantly interrupted. Heaven does not pour into environments where clarity is absent, because whatever enters confusion immediately begins to leak. This is not punishment, it is principle. God is not emotional about blessing. He is intentional about outcomes. Confusion looks spiritual on the surface. People cry, pray, fast, and shout. But beneath the noise there is no structure to carry what they are asking for. Life becomes reactive instead of intentional. Decisions are made by pressure instead of wisdom. Money arrives and disappears. Opportunities open and collapse. Relationships start strong and end fractured. None of this happens because God failed to bless, but because confusion consumes whatever touches it. God understands something many people resist. Clarity preserves increase. When order is missing, even good things become destructive. A promotion without discipline produces arrogance. Money without stewardship produces anxiety. Influence without boundaries produces scandal. God refuses to sponsor cycles that end in loss, so he waits until confusion is addressed before releasing more. Confusion also creates instability. When a person does not know what governs their life, everything competes for control. Emotions dominate one day, fear the next, ambition after that. There is no consistent rhythm, no anchored direction. Heaven does not partner with instability because instability cannot sustain weight. Blessing carries weight. Influence carries pressure. Increase attracts resistance. Without order, these forces crush instead of elevate. This is why some people feel like they are always starting over. Confusion resets progress. Every time momentum begins to build, disorder pulls everything back to zero. God does not intervene to rescue what wisdom was meant to correct. He waits for alignment because alignment is the doorway to preservation. Confusion is loud, but order is quiet. Confusion demands attention, order produces results. God is drawn to what functions, not what shouts. A structured life does not beg for miracles because it becomes a landing place for them. Heaven releases where clarity already exists. God never funds confusion because confusion resists accountability. When things fall apart, confusion looks for something to blame. People blame spiritual attacks, bad timing, other people, or even God himself. But order forces responsibility. It exposes patterns. It reveals leaks. It demands growth. This is uncomfortable, which is why many avoid it. Confusion feels flexible, but it is fragile. It collapses under pressure. God does not build on fragile foundations. He waits for clarity of vision, clarity of values, clarity of boundaries, and clarity of systems. Once these are present, increase no longer threatens collapse. Confusion also multiplies stress. When life lacks order, every situation feels urgent. Everything feels heavy. Peace disappears not because life is hard, but because structure is missing. God will not add to stress by releasing more into chaos. He requires environments where peace can coexist with progress. Many misunderstand divine silence. They assume God is distant, when in reality he is observing readiness. Heaven watches how you manage what you already have. If what you have is handled with confusion, more will only magnify the damage. God is too wise to do that. Order invites trust. When systems are clear, stewardship is visible. Discipline speaks louder than desire. Structure proves maturity without words. God responds to evidence, not explanations. He looks for clarity because clarity sustains covenant. This is why transformation often begins with uncomfortable changes. God presses people to organize, prioritize, simplify, and align. He exposes confusion not to shame, but to prepare. Confusion must be corrected before increase can be protected. Heaven does not rush outcomes. It values longevity over speed. Anything released without order will eventually be reclaimed by disorder. God prevents that by waiting until clarity governs the life, the mind, the habits, the decisions, and the direction, because once confusion is removed, what is released can finally remain. Structure is the language of maturity. When order is present, it communicates readiness without words. God does not measure growth by age, years in faith, or how long someone has been waiting. He measures it by stewardship. Maturity is proven by how consistently a person can manage what is already in their hands. Structure reveals that ability clearly. Many people desire increase but resist discipline. They want expansion without responsibility, freedom without boundaries, blessing without systems. But maturity understands that boundaries do not restrict life, they protect it. Structure is not limitation, it is permission. It tells heaven that growth will not become damage. A mature person does not live by impulse, they live by principle. Structure replaces emotional decision-making with intentional patterns. Time is respected, energy is allocated, priorities are defined. This is why maturity attracts trust. God entrusts more to those who demonstrate consistency, not intensity. Structure also stabilizes identity. Without order, people shift based on environment, pressure, or approval. One day they are confident, the next they are insecure. One season they are committed, the next they are distracted. Maturity produces consistency across seasons. Structure holds identity steady when circumstances change. This is why immature success collapses quickly. When increase comes faster than maturity, it exposes weaknesses. Money magnifies habits. Influence magnifies character. Responsibility magnifies integrity. If structure is missing, increase becomes a spotlight on flaws. God withholds not because he is unwilling, but because he refuses to expose people before they are ready. Structure trains patience. Maturity understands process. It does not rush outcomes. It builds foundations. Structured people are not controlled by urgency. They understand that lasting fruit grows over time. God aligns with this mindset because heaven values endurance more than excitement. Structure also reveals obedience. Doing what is right consistently, even when unseen, reflects maturity. God responds to obedience that does not need applause. Discipline in private prepares for responsibility in public. Structure proves faithfulness long before promotion arrives. A mature life is predictable in the best way, not boring but reliable. God can trust predictability because it reduces risk. Heaven releases increase where it will not be wasted, misused, or lost. Structure lowers risk. Many confuse spirituality with spontaneity. They assume being led means being unstructured. But God Himself operates with order. He sets times, seasons, patterns, and principles. Following Him requires alignment, not chaos. Maturity understands that structure and spirituality are not enemies. Structure also builds resilience. When pressure comes, a mature person does not collapse. Systems hold them steady. Habits guide them when emotions are overwhelmed. Order provides support when strength feels low. God releases weight to those who can carry it. Maturity does not announce itself loudly. It shows up daily. Structure is seen in how someone manages conflict, finances, time, commitments, and responsibilities. These quiet disciplines speak louder than declarations of faith. God responds to readiness, not urgency. Structure signals readiness clearly. It demonstrates that increase will be honored, not abused, that expansion will be managed, not squandered, that influence will be stewarded, not exploited. This is why growth often slows before it accelerates. God allows seasons where structure must be formed, habits must be corrected, priorities must be aligned. Identity must be stabilized. These seasons feel restrictive, but they are actually preparatory. Maturity accepts structure without resentment. It understands that order is not punishment but preparation. When structure is established, increase becomes safe. When maturity is visible, trust follows naturally. God partners with those who can sustain what they receive. Delay is often interpreted as rejection, but in reality it functions as mercy. God does not rush outcomes that would damage the vessel receiving them. What feels like waiting is often divine restraint, protecting a person from the consequences of premature release. Speed without preparation produces collapse, not progress. Many prayers are sincere, but sincerity does not equal readiness. Desire does not replace discipline. Faith does not cancel formation. God answers prayers in alignment with capacity, not emotion. Delay gives space for capacity to develop so that what arrives will not overwhelm what receives it. When increase comes too early, it exposes immaturity. Pressure reveals what structure hides. A person may appear ready in calm seasons, but pressure tests foundations. Delay allows hidden weaknesses to surface before responsibility magnifies them. God addresses internal instability before external expansion. Delay also reshapes motives. Immediate answers often reinforce ego. Waiting humbles ambition and refines intention. When God withholds, He exposes whether the desire is for purpose or for validation. Delay removes shallow motivations and leaves only what is anchored in alignment. God understands timing beyond human urgency. What feels late to people may be early in the context of destiny. Heaven is not driven by impatience. It values long-term impact over short-term excitement. Delay protects future fruit from present ruin. Many failures are not caused by opposition, but by premature success. People are elevated before they are established, given access before boundaries are formed, handed influence before character is stabilized. Delay prevents this kind of destruction. God guards destiny by slowing access. Delay also builds endurance. Without waiting, resilience does not form. Structure is tested over time, not moments. Consistency cannot be proven instantly. God allows seasons where nothing changes externally so that everything can change internally. These seasons feel silent, but they are productive. Silence forces evaluation. When there is no movement, distractions lose power. Delay confronts people with themselves. It reveals habits, attitudes, and patterns that would remain hidden in activity. God uses delay as a mirror. Delay also teaches stewardship. When progress is slow, every resource matters. Time is valued, effort is measured, waste becomes visible. God trains people to manage small things well before increasing scale. This discipline preserves future abundance. Many people assume delay means lack of favor, but favor without formation is dangerous. God does not rush people into environments they cannot survive. Delay is not absence, it is supervision. Delay aligns timing with structure. Systems must be built before weight is added. Foundations must settle before height increases. God waits until order can sustain expansion. When release finally comes, it does not require frantic adjustment. Delay also exposes trust. Do people obey without reward? Do they remain faithful without recognition? Do they maintain structure without results? These questions are answered in waiting seasons. God looks for consistency without applause. What is rushed often needs to be repaired. What is delayed often arrives complete. God prefers fullness over speed. He values sustainability more than arrival time. Delay creates depth. Shallow roots cannot support tall trees. Waiting drives roots deeper. It strengthens internal systems so external growth does not uproot stability. God prioritizes depth because depth sustains height. Many people would lose themselves if their prayers were answered immediately. Delay preserves identity. It allows alignment to form before exposure increases. God protects people from becoming strangers to themselves. When delay lifts, momentum feels effortless. Structure carries weight smoothly. Increase does not shock the system. Progress flows naturally because preparation has already occurred. Delay ends when order is sufficient, capacity is formed, motives are refined, and systems are ready to sustain what is released. Order creates flow because it removes friction. When systems are aligned, energy moves without resistance. Progress becomes natural instead of forced. People often confuse flow with ease, but flow is not the absence of effort. It is the absence of unnecessary struggle. Order eliminates waste, confusion, and repetition, allowing life to move forward with clarity. Disorder interrupts momentum. It forces constant correction. Time is spent fixing what should have been prevented. Energy is drained responding to problems instead of building solutions. When order is missing, even small tasks feel heavy because nothing supports them. God does not design increase to feel suffocating. Flow is the evidence of alignment. Flow begins internally. When thoughts are ordered, decisions become simpler. When priorities are clear, distractions lose power. Many feel stuck not because opportunity is absent, but because mental chaos blocks movement. God requires internal order before external flow can be trusted. Order also establishes rhythm. Rhythm reduces exhaustion. Life moves in patterns instead of emergencies. When structure governs time, rest and productivity coexist. Burnout decreases because boundaries are respected. God designed creation with rhythms for this reason. Flow follows rhythm, not randomness. Flow attracts favor. People are drawn to environments that function well. When systems are clear, trust increases. Opportunities move toward stability. God releases favor where flow already exists because favor amplifies systems. If order is absent, favor magnifies dysfunction. Heaven avoids that. Order also increases efficiency. Less effort produces more result. Focus sharpens. Actions align with purpose. This is why disciplined people appear to accomplish more with less strain. Their energy is not scattered. God multiplies what is already effective. Flow requires boundaries. Water without banks becomes a flood. Structure gives direction to potential. Boundaries do not stop movement, they guide it. God sets limits to preserve flow, not restrict it. When boundaries are honored, increase moves safely. Disorder demands constant decision-making. Every situation feels uncertain. This creates fatigue. Order simplifies choices. Systems make decisions ahead of time. When structure is present, clarity replaces overwhelm. Flow increases because mental resistance decreases. Order also creates predictability. Predictability builds trust. Trust opens doors. God releases influence where reliability exists. Unpredictable environments create hesitation. Heaven does not rush influence into instability. Flow also protects peace. When life is structured, anxiety loses control. Stress often comes from uncertainty, not difficulty. Order reduces uncertainty. Peace becomes sustainable. God does not separate peace from progress. Flow carries both. Many people pray for momentum without realizing momentum follows alignment. God does not push progress against disorder. He waits for cooperation. Once systems are in place, momentum becomes automatic. Order also enhances creativity. When basics are handled, the mind is free to innovate. Chaos consumes attention. Structure frees it. God releases ideas where space exists to receive them. Flow grows over time. It is built, not forced. Order is established consistently, not occasionally. Small disciplines compound. Systems strengthen. Over time, resistance fades. What once required effort becomes natural. When order governs life, resistance decreases. Doors open smoothly. Opportunities align. Progress accelerates without strain. God releases movement where systems support it. Flow is not luck, it is the byproduct of sustained order. Chaos attracts loss because anything unmanaged becomes vulnerable. What is not guarded will eventually be drained. Disorder creates openings where resources escape unnoticed. Time slips away, energy is misused, opportunities are wasted, and relationships deteriorate. Loss is rarely sudden. It accumulates quietly in environments where order is absent. Chaos weakens awareness. When everything feels urgent, nothing is handled deeply. Attention becomes fragmented. People react instead of led. In this state, mistakes multiply. God does not release increase into conditions where awareness is compromised because lack of awareness guarantees loss. Unordered systems cannot protect value. Money without structure disappears through impulse. Influence without boundaries attracts misuse. Responsibility without clarity creates burnout. Chaos turns gifts into liabilities. God does not add to what is already unprotected. Loss often disguises itself as pressure. People assume life is attacking them, when in reality systems are failing them. Chaos creates constant emergencies. These emergencies exhaust discernment. Over time, poor decisions feel normal. God calls people to order not to control them, but to preserve them. Chaos also distorts priorities. When structure is missing, minor issues receive major attention, while critical matters are neglected. Energy is spent reacting to noise instead of building substance. God values stewardship, and stewardship requires priority. Loss follows when priorities are unclear. Unstructured environments invite distraction. Distraction drains progress without resistance. People drift from purpose slowly, not suddenly. Chaos allows drift. God withholds increase from drifting lives because increase demands direction. Chaos weakens accountability. When processes are unclear, responsibility becomes blurred. No one knows what failed or why. This makes correction difficult. God values clarity because clarity allows growth. Loss multiplies where correction is avoided. Many people underestimate how much they lose daily through disorder. Peace erodes, focus diminishes, discipline weakens, integrity is compromised through small concessions. Chaos does not destroy instantly, it erodes gradually. God intervenes by requiring order before expansion. Chaos creates instability. Instability repels trust. People hesitate to commit to environments that feel unpredictable. God does not position influence where trust cannot be sustained. Loss follows instability because support withdraws. Unordered lives also struggle with consistency. Inconsistency interrupts momentum. Progress resets repeatedly. God values continuity because continuity compounds. Loss increases when momentum is constantly broken. Chaos also multiplies stress. Stress clouds judgment. Clouded judgment produces loss. God protects people by withholding increase until stress is addressed through structure. More responsibility under stress accelerates damage. Disorder creates leaks that are invisible until damage is done. Small habits, unchecked attitudes, unmanaged emotions, and unclear systems slowly drain capacity. God exposes these. Leaks by delaying increase. Loss is prevented by correction, not by replacement. Chaos resists correction because it lacks reference points. Without structure, improvement is guesswork. God requires order because order provides measurable growth. Loss reduces when progress can be tracked. Unmanaged freedom becomes vulnerability. Chaos feels liberating, but it offers no protection. Boundaries create safety. God does not bless exposure. He blesses stewardship. Loss is not always material. Sometimes it is relational, emotional, spiritual, or internal. Chaos drains identity. People forget who they are because nothing anchors them. God values stability of identity before stability of outcomes. Chaos attracts loss because it cannot sustain value. God withholds not to punish, but to protect. He requires order so that what is released can be kept, grown, and preserved without collapse. When order is set, success follows naturally because alignment removes resistance. God does not force outcomes, He releases them into prepared systems. Success is not chased in ordered lives, it is attracted. What once required struggle begins to move with ease because structure carries the weight. Order signals readiness to heaven. When systems are in place, increase becomes safe. God does not hesitate to release what will be preserved. Once order governs decisions, habits, priorities, and direction, success stops being a miracle and becomes a result. Ordered lives reduce friction. Energy is not wasted fighting internal conflict. Focus replaces confusion. Direction replaces noise. This clarity accelerates progress without strain. God multiplies what already works. When order is present, favor has somewhere to land. Opportunities do not collapse under pressure. Relationships grow instead of fracture. Influence expands without corruption. Success becomes sustainable because structure supports it. Order also sharpens vision. Goals become clear. Actions align with purpose. Success follows focus. God responds to clarity because clarity preserves destiny. Success is often delayed until order is visible. God waits for alignment before release.